this party started. Yeah, that's where we're going. Back in your lives, in your ears, and in your face. Welcome to another episode of Papa G's House, episode 81. It is good to be back. It is good to have you back. If you're listening right now, I love you. And if you're not, you can always watch it back. So, you know, it's Thursday. I'm exhausted. I've just started exercising with my buddy, and you know, being so out of shape, it has been a tough road. So I'm sluggish today, but I'm enjoying a nice cold drink, and I'm here with trusty producer Art. So the man that used to be in the chat, the man who is now the man on the controls. Art, what is happening, my brother? We got lots to talk about today, dude. Especially, you know, lots of sports stuff, dude. I watched the Formula One this weekend.
Yo.
NBA playoffs are coming. There's a big UFC card this weekend. Lots of music shit to talk about. I'm excited, man. How you doing?
All right, dude. And I saw my first eye poke in UFC over the weekend.
Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah, dude. That was the first
Leon
time I
Edwards.
saw that. I mean, like, I've only just been like casually checking out because of you. And then the first thing I see, the guy nearly gets his eye poked out.
That was almost a murder by eye poke, dude. It was crazy. But
Yeah.
we can talk about that all at the end of the episode. Obviously, we have a live chat going. Please, everybody, if you are listening right now, it's so great when we see you comment. So please don't forget to comment. Keep interacting with us during this next hour. Art will pull up your comments and all that kind of jazz. We can interact. Thank you to everybody last episode who participated in the Let's Chat episode. Everybody who sent the emails in.
That was a good chat.
That was fun. Everybody who sent their emails in, and we called in. It was great. Thanks for tuning in and listening and all that kind of jazz. We're going to do that again down the line. It was really fun. We actually got a couple of emails after the live stream where people were like, let's chat, keen to call in. So what we'll do the next time, if we'll email you back, and if you still want to come on the show, we will do that, and it'll be fun because it was fun. A nice impromptu episode. We talked about anything and everything, but I don't want to keep my guest waiting.
Yep.
It is, he's sitting in New York City, or not New York City, because there are a lot of suburbs around there.
New Jersey.
New Jersey, sweet. A very special guest today, a multi-talented artist, a photographer, a multimedia specialist, and not only that, but Nathaniel Shannon and the Vanishing Twin releasing their EP last year, December, Three Mothers. So we're going to talk everything, start to finish, everything Nathaniel Shannon. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Nathaniel Shannon.
What's
up? How you doing, my dude? Thank you so much for taking the time to join the show today.
Absolutely.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. It's great to chat to you. And another international guest. I always feel super privileged when guys take their time. I mean, the time difference is all wonky and all that kind of jazz. But thank you for taking the time out of your day to have a chat to us, man. I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited about it.
For sure.
I'm excited that you're excited.
Yeah, dude. We were talking off air. I love that background you got there. And you mentioned that it was an attic that you built. Is that like your kind of studio kind of vibe behind you?
Yeah, I ended up bailing out of Brooklyn last fall, moved to New Jersey, housing issue, our ceiling collapsed. My girlfriend and I lived together and our ceiling collapsed.
Sure.
That's a long story that doesn't matter, but I'm in New Jersey and I got an attic where I can sit and, make weird stuff because I have nothing else to do with my time at this point in life.
So first, I mean, before we get into all the awesome stuff that you're up to and the stuff that you do, how is it around the New York area at the moment? Because the last I heard, everything was shut down, and it was one of the states that actually, held the lockdown for quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a surreal year to say the least. New York State itself is like pretty massive. So you've got the city, which takes up a majority of the resources of the rest of the state. I mean, the city itself is 9 million people. It's just a small sliver of like actual landmass compared to the rest of the state. So that's been a statewide contention of everybody outside of New York City area kind of hating us because they got pretty locked down for the last year because they have to deal with us. Pros and cons of being here is because it's such a major metropolis that outside of racial politics and George Floyd getting murdered and kind of the eruption in the streets that happened, like almost exactly a year ago, and how that affected everything. Pandemic stuff, it's a rich fucking town. There's a lot of rich people. So all the rich people left as soon as this hit to go to their vacation homes.
Yeah.
So it went from the first couple of weeks being like, man, should we get the fuck out of here and go hide out in the woods somewhere, to everybody's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, like, people left. We a couple weeks in, my girlfriend and I started doing some volunteer work, and there's a program called Meals on Wheels where you just deliver food to people who, like, more elderly people, injured people who can't get out and like go grocery shop or feed themselves.
Okay, that's awesome.
And it was like, we have nothing to do, and like, it's also self-serving if it makes me feel good to help.
Sure.
That being said, the location that we would go pick up the food from was like a block off of Times Square. And Times Square, which is the most awful place in all of New York City that I avoid at all costs, was a ghost town. I mean, there's literally nobody.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tourists nonstop most of the time. I mean, pre-pandemic, it was just a dog show, basically. It's just everyone and everyone from every different country, like, standing on each other's toes.
Yeah. So I ended up going to Times Square a lot to like photograph that area, because it was like this unique opportunity of like, not only as a member of New York City, New York State, the United States, and just a human of the world, here's an opportunity to live through this weird time in a major metropolis that is now literally just a fucking ghost town.
It's crazy.
Which was,
dude.
like, you remove all the tragedy and like all the awful stuff that has happened last year of people dying, whatever, politics, especially American politics, whatever. What a unique opportunity to like experience this city, like be able to drive anywhere, like go, I spent a lot of time going to just random, there's a handful of like old military forts that are just dilapidated, or other nature preserves, or just places that like, it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to, dealing with traffic. Oh, is it going to be crowded full of people? So it's like, I created a list of like things I wanted to go see. Bridges, like, I mean, there's a massive amount of bridges in the city, so I thought it'd be cool to like, how many bridges can I walk across?
Wow.
Because it's just easy to get to them. That it kind of became this weird playground of, I think, an old New York that I always had a fantasy of, like 80s art New York, be it, music or culture in general that influenced, I think a lot of like the subcultures that we all got into. So being able to kind of see that from this, the shopping mall closed, if you will, because the city's just a massive shopping mall. But like, the shopping mall closed, what happens when the shopping mall closes? You remove tourists, and there's just fucking crazy people everywhere, and there's no camouflage of tourists to like hide them. Which was like,
I love it. I mean, because I mean, listen, for a lot of people,
aren't going anywhere.
We sometimes we feel a little bit the same. We got a lot of tourists in pre-pandemic in Cape Town, and a lot of people feel the same way. Art's loving that. Dude, I mean,
great.
I just took a sip and I almost spat it out.
I mean, I'll give you an example of like,
okay.
I should, over the last couple of years, I have this photo series called Street Dicks, which is just me wandering around New York City, taking pictures of people like on their phones as they're about to walk into me, which was birthed out of me getting into a fight with a dude on the street one day because he walked into me with his phone. I slapped it out of his hand, and like we had an exchange of words, but like I had this picture of him, and it just kind of dawned on me like, oh, I got to start documenting this shit. So I've spent years just kind of wandering around doing that, and part of the beauty of that is the camouflage of being able to like weave in and out of foot traffic. So I can take a picture of somebody and they'll never know, because they'll never see me, because I'm gone by the time they realize what has happened. I was walking down the street.
That's crazy.
There was nobody on the street, and I took a picture of a dude eating a sandwich, who ironically was like being interviewed on video camera by somebody else, and he saw me and he chased after me for like an entire block, tried to grab me, and I was just like, yo, motherfucker, like there's first off, there's a pandemic. Second, I just kind of looked around and I was just like, there's nobody else on the street to even see that this is happening.
Yeah, dude. And he was like, give me memory card now.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly the way it went. And I was just like, you know, for all the, I guess, hostile run-ins I've had in, be it shooting music for the last 20 plus years, street stuff, whatever, there was nowhere to hide, which was also just like kind of this weird thing of like, I'm skating through like a blank canvas of a city, and the only people around the street are super aggressive and ready to throw down, which there's that stereotype of New York, but like you kind of don't see that most of the time because again, it's camouflaged with like, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. It's nice to see it
but...
from it's nice to see it from your from a New Yorker's perspective, someone who lives there, you know.
It was really
it's
funny.
Fascinating. So I mean, this sounds like something. I mean, you do street decks. Is it where do you put it? Where do you put it online? On your NathanielShannon.com?
Most of that stuff all goes through Instagram, just at Nathaniel Shannon, if people want to check that out. I've done a couple volumes of in-print zines. I also like the idea of like catching somebody looking at pictures of people on their phone, you know.
Oh, wow, that is interesting.
That's like my dream.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it just comes full circle.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing, but it's exposing. It's kind of like exposing what they're doing, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no,
you know, and we're all
great.
guilty of it, but I think that, you know, dependency on cell phones and technology is like a constant source of information and entertainment is almost a pandemic in itself. That taking a step back years later now, obviously facing what we're all going through with a viral issue, a virus issue, is how is a cell phone really any different? Like how many people just walked out into traffic on their phone because they weren't paying attention?
Yeah.
How many people have died from other cell phone related issues? Not that I'm like trying to be all political about that because I don't.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah,
I think more than anything, it's just a shift of consciousness of like what people's attentions are being focused on, which is like just a fascinating thing to see. The technology of our current time and literally living in the future now, and how that affects people's just ability to like function on a day-to-day in social situations.
Just think about this like TikTok generation. It's like it's taken the world by freaking storm, but then you're getting these like podcasts of it's become you know, it's like the housewives of whatever Atlanta, and you get the different housewives kind of series. I've never seen them, but I can imagine what it's all about. Everybody gossiping about each other and stuff. But now they're doing like podcasts. Like, I mean, I look at podcasts, different kinds of stuff, but now like basically they podcast and create drama by talking about each other, as well as being on like TikTok and stuff. It's crazy how people are taking the whole platform and just making it so crazy.
Talking shit about people makes lots of money.
It's nuts. It's drama sells, dude. Sex and drama sells. End of story.
Yeah, but what you were saying earlier as well, that you know, how many people walk across the street on their phones and get hit by a car. It's like, how many people hit my car because they were driving while being on their cell phone? The answer is 2.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, it's mad, man. But I like your outlook, man. I like the way I think that's very creative. You know, just, I mean, I guess that is the life of when you are creative. You see things in things and you make art out of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is also just born out of the frustration of situations.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my conceptual photo work or documentarian work is all based on the frustration of being in New York. If I lived elsewhere, I don't think a lot of that kind of work would necessarily take on any sort of political meaning or social commentary, yada, yada, yada. It would be just way different, which that's kind of addicting to, being in a hostile environment and watching a train wreck constantly is kind of addicting, after a while. And
Yeah,
it's great for a camera lens
for
because
sure.
there's just
And
always
look,
something stupid going on.
and it never stops. And I don't want to be that guy to bring it up, but it's almost a year to the day with the George Floyd stuff, and now
Sure.
1 year later we've got the Columbus, Ohio incident. With the Ma'Khia Bryant situation. It's
Sure.
crazy, and now it feels like it's history repeating itself. But yeah, we don't want to go too much into detail about that. It's very sad.
It's
but it seems as though there's going to be another slew of protests. Well, there have been already.
Right.
So it's crazy. It's pretty divided out there. But let's hope for improvement for sure. But yeah, dude, it's crazy. But correct me if I'm wrong. You're out of Detroit, aren't you? Michigan.
Yeah, I was born and raised in the suburbs of Detroit, and moved to the East Coast in like 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've been out here 13 years now.
And the move from Michigan to New York, was it career or just want to get out of Detroit?
I had to get the fuck out of Detroit or it was going to kill me. Detroit is a wonderfully negative place, to say the least.
The Motor City.
Yeah, I mean, it's a motor city with a broken engine.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
A motor that broke down and caught on fire and is burned to the ground multiple times.
Yeah, you could say the same for the Pistons, eh?
We had our run,
Yeah.
The early 2000s, man, that was like, what a cool time to like have local sports be great.
Well, I mean, it's pretty great to be a New Yorker at the moment. You've got the New York Knicks on an 8-win streak, game.
Knicks.
Okay, and then you got the Nets, who are just loading up with stars like James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Blake Griffin, all those dudes.
I can't, I've been out here 13 years, and I can't get down with supporting New York sports teams.
So, I take it you're still a Detroit guy then.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
I can't.
Look, I mean, they're not looking too bad. I mean, what they're 15-35, I think, at the moment. I'm not sure.
And he's wearing a New York cap.
I admit, in recent years, it's been harder and harder for me to pay attention to the Pistons and the Red Wings because it's rebuilding.
No, for sure.
Which has been like almost 15 years of rebuilding after having like pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, well, you had the Bad Boys, so at least and you had that whole crew, and then some. Who were they did win a championship after the Bad Boys, right? Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, in the early 2000s, we were awesome. We had Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace, and that whole Chauncey Billups and that whole team, which just kind of fell apart. I kind of partially blamed Joe Dumars, who was one of the Bad Boys. He ended up becoming the general manager and just kind of like ran the team into the ground.
Sure.
Which was unfortunate, but 2004, 2003 to 2006 was like just a wild
on
time.
Fire.
To make actually like a really great analogy and point of you bringing up the Pistons in relation to Detroit, and just like what a weird melting pot, yet like honestly one of the most segregated, racist places I've ever been in the country.
Really?
In terms of the amount of white wealth in the suburbs based on like auto industry, and just, I mean, there's literally streets that are the separating points of segregated neighborhoods. That when the Pistons won in 2004, and I had spent a lot of time downtown doing hood rat shit, partying, shooting bands. I was very active in like the hardcore and punk scenes, playing and photographing that stuff. When the Pistons won, we were downtown when they won that championship, and it was like the most harmonious I've ever seen that city, where it didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter like what your economic status was. It was just like this unified congregation of people celebrating, like, honestly, hope, even though it's just sports, like a hope for the city that like there was just something actually happening that was positive that everybody could pour their energy into. And the irony of that was like 2 weeks later, I went with my mom and girlfriend at the time downtown to go watch the fireworks for America's Fuck Yeah 4th of July party. And we were
It's
in an
coming up,
office
eh?
building.
It's coming up.
It is coming up. I'm sure that, COVID will get even worse because America's got to jerk itself off. We were at this office building watching the fireworks, and like this massive shooting happened. And you could just see the crowd disperse, and it was like, oh yeah, we're back to regular old Detroit. We're like, there's a really good likelihood that you're going to get robbed or shot. I love the place, but it was just such a weird contradiction of like, here's this unity because of sports. People throwing a ball through a hole brought the city together in a way I've never seen, and it was really beautiful to experience that. Just back to like,
that's awesome, man.
Separation of class, race, like whatever you want to call it. And it's a bummer to see, the city is definitely improving. It's weird going back and seeing just like nothing but bullshit, like white people chain stores making money off
white people chain stores. I like that.
Like the suburban folk like coming back downtown. In Brooklyn is very much a similar thing of gentrification of like, who's this shit for? It's not for the people that live here. It's for people outside to come in and like, go to the Nike store.
Frozen yogurt shops on the corner and shit like that.
Yeah, it's just unaffordable for like people that live there. It's weird to see this dilapidated place that like I love, and like definitely was an influence and birthed my trajectory in life, just become this like bullshit shopping mall.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see how things do develop over time. It's weird to see things that aren't necessarily like they used to be in your nostalgic days.
Sure.
It does kind of hurt the heart a bit, especially if it's somewhere where you grew up. I mean, I can be the same. I got every time I visit where I was born, I go to the house where I grew up, and it looks like shit. So I can kind of relate, but it's interesting. And so the one thing I did look at now let's talk about obviously Nathaniel Shannon and the Vanishing Twin.
Sure.
I did read an interview. It said that I think you said that a lot of your inspiration. Didn't you say your dad was a cop, right, in Michigan?
He was. He worked for one of the local universities. He was on the police force there.
And didn't you equate some of the inspiration behind some of the music in Nathaniel Shannon and the Vanishing Twin as opposed to like some of the stories you heard? I didn't carry on the interview because I didn't want to ask the same questions.
Sure.
So
I know where you're going with that, and we can kind of take it in I guess a fresh direction.
Yes.
The inspiration there, I think, was the way I grew up, which was like in a fairly religious household, yet also having a father in law enforcement, had that kind of beat into my head, which has always sort of ethically and politically been an issue for me. But we don't need to get into that. But the influence, just as far as kind of access to a world of crime being told secondhand through him, was undoubtedly a huge influence in interest I have in like different subcultures, specifically like grimier subcultures, and even influencing photography of trying to not necessarily document like murder or crime, but like recreate fantastical illustrative situations, no different really than like a love of like horror movies. It's kind of all relative, but it definitely, I think, paved a way for an interest in the macabre that, had I not grown up in that kind of an environment, I don't know that I necessarily would have had. But it played a huge part, at least just the
The storytelling aspect.
Storytelling aspect of it, and I think my parents were careful to, even if details got gory, there was always like an intent or lesson to be learned out of whatever was being told to me, versus just like, hey kid, you want to look at some fucked up shit?
Yeah, true. But I just
don't
find
do
that
this.
super interesting.
Here's some fucked up shit. Don't go do this.
Yeah, it's just that you hear stories, and you find your own way of telling them of how you've, I mean, obviously these things are things that you absorb and that you remember. I mean, I do so at the same time, but I express it differently. I don't obviously just express it through my music. So, one thing that I love about doing what I'm doing now is I get to talk to people like you, because I get to discover music like yours. Sure. Because to be quite frank, and I'm going to be very candid, your genre of music is not something that I would usually, listen to. But I promise you, I've had 3 mothers on repeat, and that's not even a lie. And myself and Art were even talking about it earlier. It's just, what did I say to you, Art? I said, this is a song that could be played at the end of Devil's Advocate, the movie.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
All right,
Nick
that's
Cave,
awesome. Thanks,
like
guys.
darker Nick Cave kind of vibes, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, you can laugh, but I want to tell you. I want you to tell me, where did the concept of going through the experimental dark folk line got you interested in getting to that type of genre?
Before we get into that, it's funny you brought up Nick Cage, or well, you said Nick Cave. I totally thought you said Nick Cage.
Oh, like Nicolas Cage, like Face Off Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, let's just talk about Nicolas Cage. I watched that movie, Willy's Wonderland, last night, which if you guys haven't seen, you should definitely check out.
Okay.
He doesn't say a line of dialogue in the entire movie. He just goes,
I didn't know that.
Works, punch.
And like, I love Mandy and some of his like more recent just departures into like making like kind of weird art horror films, but that motherfucker doesn't say one word the entire movie, which makes
crazy
kind of an okay movie so much better that I said to my girlfriend, I was like, do you think that was at his request where they wrote him all this dialogue? And he was like, no, I'm just not going to say anything and you're still going to pay me. Anyways.
I think the same thing. You didn't want to say anything. You probably read the script going, what is this crap? I'm not going to, nah.
I need to see this.
Yeah. Anyways, Nick Cave, not the same person.
Not the same person.
Not the same person. I have to admit, I'm familiar with murder ballads, and like, I like, even though PJ Harvey and him were together, I like PJ Harvey way more than I like Nick Cave. I don't dislike him. It just was never something that was that terribly interesting to me. Ironically, I ended up kind of in the same genre or umbrella, and do you get those comparisons quite a bit?
I don't know. It just gave me that
wonder,
feeling.
like, well, how did Nick Cave get to that point, and how did I get to that point? Even though we're, I don't know, 20, 30 years in age, probably different. Maybe not that old, but like, there's an age difference of, he's been performing for 30 plus years, and I haven't. Where did we separately come from and kind of end up in the same weird, creepy genre? I don't know, Nick Cave. How'd you do that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, because like I'm the same as you. I never really got on the Nick Cave train there. I did play a few shows where we did a few Nick Cave tracks, but when I was listening to it, I was like, how can I describe it to someone? I said, like, if you took Tom Waits and you got Tito's and the Tarantulas like high, and then you had Danzig write all the songs when he was like taking sleeping pills, and that's the kind of sound you would get. And I was like, to me that sounds great.
Yeah,
I was really enjoying it,
dude. You've been actually like going. He's like, dude, this is fucking rad.
I went deep. I started from the beginning. I was like, it was really interesting stuff.
Danzig took enough sleeping pills to stop trying to do Elvis covers.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's awesome.
Most of my influence on all of this comes. I love Mark Lanigan. I'm like a super Mark Lanigan fan. I love the Screaming Trees in the 90s, and then like his solo stuff just
Yes.
I don't like is incredible. Because it's dark and depressing as fuck, and there's a lot of minor key songs, but there's always just like this. He's just a fantastic storyteller. I also had a buddy when I was in my early 20s. His name was Chris Bathgate, who lived with a bandmate of mine, and he was just kind of this like folk singer that just we would get drunk and he would just like play guitar and sit on the porch, and he put out a couple really amazing records that like resonated a lot with me, and they were like really mellow and melodramatic, and I kind of wanted to rip all that off, not necessarily intentionally, but having played aggressive music for years, I found myself in a situation of like not having people to play with. I moved to New York. My girlfriend at the time when I first moved here, she was a singer and had like a Tascam digital 8-track. And I just kind of started piecing together these like weird acoustic jams, if you will, that I never had much intention of doing anything with. The crux of that also is I love like early 90s shoegaze, Catherine Wheel, and
Man.
Slow Dive and Ride. And there was actually a band from the States called Starflyer 59 that I think are the most underrated shoegaze band ever, that have put out like 30 records, but the first 3 records were just this really brilliant marriage of like kind of New Ordery Joy Division vocals and My Bloody Valentine heaviness, but like kind of with this punk attitude where all the songs were in minor keys, but like they had these really great hooks. A lot of feedback. Loved their early Smashing Pumpkin stuff. And growing up in Detroit, and especially in the early 90s with the hip hop explosion, when the Chronic came out and Dr. Dre exploded, I mean,
Love
that
it.
record fucking changed my life
For sure.
as far as
La-da-da-da-da.
getting into the Isley Brothers and getting into like funk and soul and like everything. I think that what the most amazing thing that hip hop has ever done for music is it introduced people to other music genres.
Absolutely.
Wow. And I think the Isley Brothers are probably the greatest band of all time, given that they're still putting out records after 40 plus years and have been sampled by literally everybody. But that infusion of like loving the Isley Brothers, early 90s hip hop, G-funk stuff, especially that like Moog keyboard that was very popular in California, mixed with shoegaze. I love Cult of Luna and Neurosis. It's just this weird hodgepodge of all this shit kind of forced through. You look shocked. Did I say
Yeah, what's happening? What's happening, Art?
I love Neurosis and Cult of Luna. I love them.
I mean, the song in particular, She Came with the Birds off of Somewhere Along the Highway, is like the mellowest song on that record. To me, it's just a Mark Lanigan song, which ironically on their new record, they got him finally to sing on, which I'm just like fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Like perfect. I love
That's
both
crazy.
of these. And like, you can tell, I think in their songwriting, when you get rid of the Neurosis worship and get into the more mellow stuff, it's like, these are all like written for Mark Lanigan, like 100%.
That's crazy.
So the culmination of like all of that, I think just ended up with whatever this shit is that I'm kind of doing right now. That again didn't have much intent other than it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
I'm an audiophile and like love getting into and obsessing over like any music genre, as well as between photography, painting, anything I do. I love the juxtapositions of like, I'm gonna take like a Bone Thugs rhythm idea, maybe some keyboards, like that haunting, creepy stuff, especially with the new record, is very like 3-6 Mafia, Bone Thugs, Gravediggers, like hip hop influenced with horror themes, metal themes, and a bunch of Lanigan, Cult of Luna guitar and crooning soundscapes is kind of just what that is.
Awesome. So now tell me, three mothers, right? You've got Mater Suspiriorum, you've got Mater Tenebrarum, and you've got Mater Lacrimarum. I think that's them.
I love that you just listed the song titles. It's so rad.
So we've and also remember, Art, I was going, where's my fucking phone? I needed my phone because I just wanted to be sure, but I've remembered them. They are memorable to me. So now I didn't even need something to look at it because I remember them. Also, I'm a sucker for pronunciation. I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing something correct.
Sure.
So Mater means mother. Three mothers. There are three songs. I'm not going to rattle them off again in case I get them wrong.
But do it again.
Okay. Mater Suspiriorum, Mater Tenebrarum, and Mater Lacrimarum.
Perfect.
Is that right?
I mean, you did it better than I would have.
Okay, fantastic. So they're three mothers. They all have a different meaning or a different premise. So tell me about that concept.
So the concept with this record in general is I ended up living with my still current girlfriend in a very tiny Brooklyn apartment. So playing guitar at 3 a.m. in my underwear wasn't.
Is that, sorry, by the way, is that your red Telecaster?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Can you see that? Is that?
No, I can't see it. I've seen you play it live.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I've got that red Telly that I use a lot. So I started relying more on getting into like MIDI keyboards and synths and just shit I could do on my laptop. And had these three soundscapes and song structures. I love Argento and Italian horror in general. It's been wildly influential, even in stylistically of like doing photo illustration and lighting and composition. So I had those three songs. There's three movies in the Three Mothers trilogy. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend Mother of Tears, the last one. It's kind of a piece of shit. But the first two movies, like Inferno and Suspiria, are like just absolutely gorgeous, flawless movies to me. And it just kind of dawned on me like, oh, I've got these three songs. There's the three Mother films in that trilogy. I will just combine them and come up with this concept piece. And as especially in my, I think, genre and songwriting, there's a lot of true crime, there's a lot of horror, there's a lot of pursuing, I guess, macabre themes that I wanted to like approach the lyrical content and while tell the story of the films, not necessarily be like, I'm the character that all these witches are haunting. I'm the victim here. I was kind of not interested in that. And years ago, I had read the book Grendel, which is about the monster in Beowulf. And he is the antagonist in Beowulf, but it's all through his eyes of like, everybody's, it's kind of like the story of Frankenstein's monster of like, everybody's calling him a monster, but why is he the monster? Maybe society's the monster. So I kind of took the same approach with the lyrical content in terms of I wanted to like be the witch instead and kind of tell their side of the story of like, get the fuck out of my house. Like, this is my house. I'm a witch.
I love it.
Beard stays, you leave. So that kind of was where I went lyrically with that. And at the end of the day, all the witches get killed and like whatever, there's a downfall and kind of a happy ending or whatever. But that just kind of all came together in this like overly conceptual project that I didn't necessarily really intend to. It just kind of went that way and seemed way more interesting than like, oh, I've got these three.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
songs,
I honestly, I loved the whole composition of all three. And I did allude to the fact that earlier that I don't really listen to that kind of genre of it's just never been a part of me. It's just something and now, like I said, that's the reason why I love chatting to guys like you, is because I actually really enjoy what I was hearing. I really enjoyed what I was hearing and vibing with it. You know, I mean, I shared a little snippet. It was one of my favorite snips of the rhythm of the vocals and all that kind of stuff. I did that on an Instagram story just to show that you're up on Spotify and use one of your songs. But that specific melody and rhythm, just it really it's dark and kind of trippy, but you vibe with it at the same time.
Right. It's very hypnotic.
Yes, and you kind of get lost in a bit of a trance, like a gaze, you know.
A lot of that also comes from it to me. It to me is a hip hop record, in a weird way of, again, just taking loops and trying to create like this hypnotic, almost spell-like environment and soundscape. I was really fortunate to have Fred Etzby of the band Dismember out of Sweden play drums on this record, because we worked together at a music venue in Brooklyn and had become pretty good friends over the last couple of years. And I was talking to him about some production elements. He's produced, like, I mean, you name it, coming out of Sweden. That dude's been a part of, you know, a large array of, like,
we love our Swedish musicians. We love our Swedish musicians.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah.
And I had approached him and was just like, hey man, would you play drums on these 3 songs? And he was super stoked and very gave me a lot of support and positivity of kind of pushing where those songs went. And I think having live drums over this hypnotic, repetitive loop, almost hip-hop influenced, keyboard heavy thing, elevated it and opened the songs up to being a much more powerful body of work than had I just programmed stuff. And I, you know, I would go as far as to say, like, I don't know why, like, more hip hop doesn't use live drums, because it would just like take
100%. Well, I mean, the only live drums any hip hop artist uses nowadays is Travis Barker.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what?
Mainstream hip hop. Let me stand corrected.
That dude, I work at St. Vitus in Brooklyn, the world's premier tiny metal venue. And Blink-182 did like a secret Spotify show there, which I went and photographed, I don't know, like 2 years ago. And like, say what you will about that band, that dude's fucking incredible.
Yeah, of course.
He is an incredible drummer. And I think more so he plays just in this like such a weird, unconventional way that, yeah, it's pop punk, but it's like you remove the other 2 dudes and you just watch him play almost like fractured jazz drums over like these really dumb songs.
Yeah,
I've only got
it
one.
was so cool to watch him play in just like a really small venue that it gave me a whole new appreciation.
Nathaniel, there's only one thing I criticize about Travis Barker ever.
What's that?
He's dating a Kardashian.
Oh, Jesus.
And he was in the Aquabats.
And he was in the Aquabats.
America's premier Mormon superhero ska band.
So it's crazy, but I mean, it was a joke. I mean, at the end of the day, listen, him and MGK have created a bit of an empire for themselves
for sure.
lately. So you know, listen, you've got to respect that they've been able to do that. Not only is, you know, they're hitting number 1 on everything. There's Megan Fox and a Kardashian involved. What the fuck? It's crazy. But they're pulling it off, dude. They're pulling it off.
Yeah, dude. I saw Blink-182 for the first time when I was in London, about 2004. Okay. And I was a bit disappointed. But I realized later how wrong that I was, because every band does like a drum solo. And I hate drum solos.
What? As a drummer, you hate drum solos?
It's just a big giant wank. I mean, who gives a fuck?
No. I disagree with you. But it's cool.
Shut up. It's like,
I feel the same way about photographers. So,
so he did a drum solo, but it was just all he did was beats, you know. And I was like, I would have expected him to do a normal traditional thing, and I was feeling a bit upset. But then a couple of years later, I was like, that was genius, because he was playing, his whole solo was just hip hop beats, but like sped up. And it was like, and I was like, okay,
Art,
I've
420 was 2 days ago. Calm down.
and also the last Blink-182 with that guy, the self-titled album. I think that's his best work for Blink-182.
Are you talking about with what's the dude's name again?
Alkaline Trio guy.
Yes, that's it.
No, the original, the UFO guy,
Tom DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge. Yeah, the
I
self-titled
love that he's
Blink-182.
the UFO guy now.
The self-titled Blink-182 album, I actually think is their best stuff because they went more with the hip hop kind of stuff and the more poppy. But
Sure.
Travis Barker was playing a lot more interesting beats rather than just
Nick
doing the
Skiba
traditional
or Matt Skiba.
Yeah,
That's
Matt
his name.
Skiba. Yeah, but whatever. But
Nick Cage.
I'm with you that Travis Barker is great.
That's
yeah.
funny. I said Nick Keeper, who is actually As I Lay Dying.
As I lay dying.
And then, hey,
Is that the
you
dude
just
that
calm
tried
down.
to have his wife killed?
No, that's Tim Lambesis.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, so with that, so dude, it's really where would we actually go? Oh, the drums. That's what I wanted to say. Is that
oh yeah, I was talking
Art.
about Fred. Got Fred to play drums. It just elevated the record into like a way cooler thing.
But that's exactly what I wanted to say is Art. What was the first thing? See, Art comes here every Thursday. We don't live together. He comes here every Thursday and he produces the show. What was the first thing that I said to you when you walked through that gate today? I said
the drums sound cool. The live drums sound cool. And I'm like, I feel like in this town I'm the only one that really champions live drums these days. So
yeah. Well, look, in this country, listen, let's be honest, it costs a fuckload of money to record a live set drum kit.
Yeah, I'm sure it pretty much costs a lot there on your side too. Eh? What's the deal there with recording up on your side?
So for this record, I actually was pretty fortunate that the practice space I had at the time, the owner of that building built a studio, like a recording studio. So if you were a member of the practice space, it was like real cheap to record. Fred's also an incredible drummer that just sat down and played like every song, I think, in one take, and then we did a backing take just to have it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think.
But you got to have big channel mixes and all that kind of stuff to do it.
I don't know what the mixing board was. I honestly don't remember, but it was just a Pro Tools session, also because he's a producer, like
True.
He was able to help the engineer like really mic the drums and get some good sounds out of them. And I admit we did it for like super cheap. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was like, I could afford to pay out of pocket for that.
Well, it was well worth it.
You just make relationships with people that own studios and trade stuff. The guy that ended up actually mixing this record is a buddy of mine who's got a lot of music projects. And I had approached him about mixing the record. He does a lot of the production for Sarface, which is this dude Logic and one of the Wu-Tang guys.
Logic as in the rapper.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
I
like that guy.
No.
You don't like him?
Oh, no. He's great. He's great.
He's great. I watched him on Steve-O's podcast. He was on Steve-O's Wild Ride. And I actually really enjoyed his content. I like the way he spoke. He was smart, really smart guy.
But the Sarface stuff is Logic, Esoteric, and Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang. And my buddy Jeremy has done like a lot of the production, like keyboard work, and it's all, like the mid-tempo creepy stuff. So it was like, well, he makes the most sense to me for somebody to mix the record because it's in his wheelhouse of what he's working on anyways. I think the Sarface records are awesome. So he mixed it, and then I went back to Steve Austin from Today Is the Day, who
I was about to say Austin 316, baby. Just kidding. Sorry, he's probably got that a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure he does. I don't, it's not my name. That's probably why he's written like the most pissed records ever, is because he's like, stop calling me Steve Austin, Stone Cold.
Stop calling me Steve Austin, brother.
But he ended up mastering that and has been like super supportive over the years of like this project, which is cool to like make relationships with people who I absolutely like love and admire for their own, you know, music contributions. So that makes it affordable, you know, like you make those relationships, and if people are into what you're doing, they'll help you, you know, or you can trade art or other services. You know, being able to like trade my photo work for other things has been like invaluable to me at this point.
Speaking about your photo work, there are some absolutely insane images on your website. Oh, there we go. There's the artwork. Actually, I wanted to talk about that.
I just
Oh,
I
sure.
just bought your 2 releases off iTunes. I just bought them now because I was
Oh,
listening
thanks,
to
man.
them on a YouTube streaming because I've
That's
got a
very
YouTube
cool.
Premium account, but I just
Nice one, dude.
bought them now.
Also, okay. Well, before we go into the photography stuff, because I mean, I'm sure this ties in. That artwork, the broken glass, the roses, the images of the women's faces and stuff. How did that come all about? I mean, broken
Sure.
glass, red roses, kind of blood, kind of gives it that kind of feel with the faces. What was, and obviously the 3 women's faces are the 3 mothers. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
I get really literal as a, I guess, songwriter and photographer. Like everything I do is like incredibly linear most of the time. And I got so hung up on like, all right, there's 3 songs, there's 3 mothers, there's got to be 3 models, each song, whatever. And I couldn't get away from that concept.
Well,
you know,
good,
so
good that you didn't.
I just
like
photographed the 3 models and made this photo collage. And I kind of was struggling on like how to piece it together of what became the full album cover. And I worked at the same music venue I worked at in Brooklyn with Fred from Dismember. We had worked some show. I want to say it was like Madball or something super ignorant. And the live room of that venue was upstairs. And there was this like creepy staircase you had to go up that was like all mirrors, which, you know, totally makes sense to have a mirrored hallway at a music venue. That's like 90% ignorance all the time. And somebody fell down the stairs and like smashed their face into the mirror, shattered the mirror. It didn't spill all over the floor, but it was just like this perfectly abstract breakage in the glass. And I had my camera with me, so I went and like grabbed a photo of that, knowing full well I was like, this is how I'm going to tie the collage together. Is like you get this fractured separation of like the 3 female characters, plus it just looks super fucking cool. So that all got like really heavily conceptual. You know, I tried to base, I guess, like the pseudo environment that each model was in based around kind of themes from the film. And like, at least when I think of the films, like the color choices of like what those films look like to me in my head.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, everybody who's listening right now needs to go check out nathanielshannon.com, because you've really taken some photos of some iconic bands as well.
Sure.
Your Instagram is also a one hell of a follow, so go follow Nathaniel Shannon on Instagram as well. I mean, I gave you a follow today, dude. I love your imagery. I love your black and white work, especially. I love the contrast that you guys get. There we go. Speaking of black and white, but I really love the contrast that you have, and then, you know, the one image also pointed that it means that you're a versatile, you know, creator, in the sense that, you know, you do your abstract images as well, in the sense that you know, there was that one photo where you completely manipulated and edited the photo where I think it was a guy with a teddy bear in the room and kicking something, or he had it was just one that really stuck out at me. We'll review it after the interview. We'll go have a look at the images. But dude, you really have talent behind the lens, man. It really is good stuff.
I appreciate that.
I can't follow because I'm not on Instagram. I don't do social media.
Yeah. choose a producer that's not on social media. It's great.
Yeah, you picked a great guy. Then,
Yeah. But yeah, dude. So you extremely talented. I'm super chuffed to have been able to chop it up with you. I feel like we've made a connection. So that Cape Town and New York have made a connection. I'd like to have you on again. Have you got any plans?
I would love to come back.
Have you got any plans for December was the release of the EP? Have you got anything in the works? I know live shows are starting to come back. Anything you've got planned going for 2021?
I don't see us playing live anytime soon. Just based on locations we would be playing. I did like a live stream back in December, like right before Christmas, and actually played the 3 songs at Vitus, which was cool. I didn't have like my full band with me. That was just like a solo thing because of time constraints and COVID stuff. I just put out another side project record a couple of weeks ago called Suspects, which you can also get information for via my Instagram at Nathaniel Shannon, which was another, it's a completely different direction versus like the solo stuff. It's very like Dead Guy, Snapcase, I guess Refused-esque in a way, Jesus Lizard, whatever. There's a lot of genre bending going on there, but I did like a 44-page art zine and a cassette tape. The cassette tapes are sold out, but that just came out, which was like a long tumultuous project based on, you know, the story with that record is that I had been playing with a couple guys about 8-9 years ago, and we had recorded this record after I had found this collection of art. So we started writing songs around it, and then our bass player went missing, and he had the only copy of that record. So at least that's what I thought. And last year I actually found a copy of the original recording, so we cleaned that out and just put that out. So that was cool to like finally kind of get that out into the world. Totally different from you know my solo stuff, but people should check that out. I'm super stoked on that. I've got an ambient record that I'm working on that's gonna, you know, be another conceptual thing with I think an art zine.
Lots of pedals involved.
There'll be a lot of pedals and keyboards. It's, you know, the intention with that one was like I just wanted to create some soundscapes to listen to on the subway, so I don't have to listen to people fucking talking while I'm reading. Which of course, like everything has taken like a different shift in life of its own, that there's a concept behind the songs, and it's going to be more of like an audio accompaniment of a bunch of photo work that's a little more like abstract nature photo work. I don't have a timeline for that, sometime this year. And I'm working on slowly recording a full length that will be like the follow-up to my 2016 full length Trespasses. But you know, with the pandemic, I've got nothing to do besides like make weird shit and
create. That's what you should be doing. And I'm happy you are. I mean, just for instance, over your left shoulder, that is your piece, right? That stained glass window painting behind you. Yes. And you're selling those canvas prints as well, right?
I'm selling the original paintings. I don't really have any intention of making prints out of them. That one in particular right there is actually a custom one for a friend and her husband and child. They had commissioned that they wanted like a family portrait. So that's something I've been spending a lot of time doing, is just painting aliens, because it's fucking fun.
But that's what I love about it. I mean, I think you dipping into so many different things that it's, you know, for in a time like this is, you're the perfect example of what people should be doing: keeping themselves busy, keeping the creativity going, not letting the mind go idle, and because devil's idle hands are the devil's workshop. Sure, you know. So as long as you keep doing stuff that makes you happy and inspired, and what is the other word? I don't know, whatever. I think it's great and consistent. So, dude, congrats to you. it's a
Well,
shitty
thanks, man.
situation. Obviously, the pandemic and all the rest. We feeling it as well. But
It's fine.
Nathaniel, I think our time is up. But I really would dig to chat to you again.
Yeah, I would
I think
love
we
to.
should keep in contact. DM
Absolutely.
on Instagram and email each other and stuff like that. I really would like to keep in contact with you and find out what you're up to and stuff, because I have been afforded the opportunity to go live in the States for 6 months. I loved it. Had the
Oh, right
best
on.
time. I was in Colorado. Speaking of
Oh,
which,
yeah,
you were
awesome.
talking about 80s. I mean, we weren't specifically talking about 80s, but we're talking about hip hop. When we talk about hip hop, I'm talking about like 80s, 90s hip hop. I saw Digital Underground in Breckenridge, Colorado in 2005.
How much weed was at that show?
Oh, dude, so much. It was amazing. We had the
Did you
best
live
time.
in Breckenridge? Or
I lived in Breckenridge, yes.
that's a really random place to end up.
Well, we used to do these like exchange programs, or you used to sign up and you used to go be able to.
Sure.
I worked on Peak 8 at Breckenridge, the Burgundy restaurant.
Oh, right on. That's awesome.
And I had 6
I went-
months of snowboarding and just working and living the
Man,
life
that's
in
so
America,
cool.
and I loved it. And the people in Colorado, especially, I used to hitchhike. Hitchhiking in this country is a big no-no, right?
I mean, I wouldn't
Big
do it here
no-no.
either, but
But I used to hitchhike 9 miles from outside of town into Breckenridge every single morning, 6 a.m. And it was the first vehicle that picked me up. Every single time. You put your thumb out there, pick me up every single time. They'd offer me some chips. And you know what? A lot of the time when they picked me up in the morning, they would take me right to the top of Ski Hill Road and drop me at the entrance of the thing, where they could have just dropped me at the bottom, where I could have taken the bus up with the rest of the employees. It was fantastic.
is that place at the top of the hill where you can like ride the tram?
Yes. Yeah. Ski Hill
Yeah.
Road at the top was the Burgundy restaurant. And
Yep,
it was
I
Peak
know
8.
exactly
Peak
what
8.
you're talking about.
Peak 8.
I went to a wedding in Breckenridge a couple years ago, and I had never been out there, and like it was something.
It's amazing. But
It was
anyway,
great.
I mean, listen, to be honest with you, I still haven't let it go. I'm looking at my snowboard right now. I will never ever sell it in my life. I've turned it into a clock. so that I just have it. So now I look at the snowboard and I can tell the time. But
So you can shred time.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I'm knee deep in time, bro. But
Colorado is beautiful. Like that whole
dude.
area of the country is absolutely
Too
I
good.
wouldn't be upset if I ended up out there to escape from the
Do it.
inevitable collapse.
do it. It's the best.
Human
And
Yeah,
then,
well, I've just
civilization.
added a third place for me to go and visit.
yeah, I did Breckenridge, Colorado, all the way, and then I did Vail, I did Beaver Creek, I did
Oh, cool.
Keystone. I stayed a couple of nights in Frisco, Silverthorne, Keystone, all those places. But love the States. Love chatting to you, Nathaniel. I'm not going to keep you any longer. I've kept you an hour. Thank you so much for joining the show. I really
I've got nothing
appreciate
but
it.
time, man.
Yeah, man, you're an amazing person to talk to. Keep up
Thanks
the
for having me,
creativity.
guys.
Keep up the music. Keep up the photography, and I can't wait to catch up with you soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much. Go well, my man.
Later.
Later. That was Nathaniel Shannon of Nathaniel Shannon Photography, nathanielshannon.com, on Instagram, everywhere, and obviously Nathaniel Shannon and the Vanishing Twin. Thank you guys for tuning into that interview. I really enjoyed it. Dude, how much fun was that, dude?
Dude, it was such a great conversation. I really
Cool.
I really enjoyed his angle. It was cool. It would be rad to chat to him again. I mean,
Totally.
I immediately went on just hearing his perspective and where he came from with his records. I said, like, you know what, I'm adding it to my collection, so I just bought it straight up.
For sure. But I mean, that was a great episode. I don't think we actually even need to do anything more than that. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat, but we've got lots to talk about. I mean, how's it hanging, boys? What's up, Jared? Yeah, dude, it's a big fight weekend. We've got UFC 261. We've got Jorge Masvidal. We've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. We've got Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang. and many more.
And we don't have any racing this weekend.
No racing this weekend. But can I tell you one thing that I took out of last weekend, though?
Yes, go for it, dude.
Lewis Hamilton is a machine.
Dude, okay, listen.
9th position to 2nd.
Dude, I'm never going to deny how good Lewis Hamilton is. Never. I'm never going to take anything away from that guy. He is. I mean, I'm always going to be Ayrton Senna as my Formula One idol.
Yeah.
But if you took Ayrton Senna out of the picture for me, Lewis Hamilton is it. Really.
Great.
But I really crave having other people challenging him, and Red Bull and Verstappen are starting to do that this last season of this current form of Formula One, because next year they're going to change.
Verstappen, Leclerc, and Norris, all 23 years old. He's 36.
Did you see Sainz? Sainz went up, like, I think he started in 9th and he ended up in 6th, but he was being methodical with his race and he didn't make a single misstep, and Sainz did well. And I remember messaging you that I said, like, Tsunoda, I really dig him. And then the second that I said that to you, he made a mistake and he just kept making it. I was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said it. But yeah, it was a really great race. It was good to see that Mercedes now looks like to have competition. And I know it sounds like I hate Hamilton. It's just that I hate that he wins all the time, because it affects the sport. And he does actually say, it's like he says, it's good for the fans that Red Bull are now challenging and is making it difficult for us.
Yeah, dude.
So
They're all going to catch up.
Every time I see a race, like even Carolyn says, like I'm struggling to hate him.
You can't.
But you can't.
And he's so poised
really
after
good.
shows and interviews and stuff. He's classy, dude.
Yeah, but you see, he did make a mistake on the race. He did go into the wall, and I
saw that, and he was very tight on overtaking where they touched, and then and he had his front bumper damaged.
Exactly, but like that was, I think this was the real first time that he faced a real challenge, and he made like a single mistake, but it wasn't a serious one. But he was lucky with the safety car. He definitely was lucky. Sure. But seriously, I mean,
first red flag of the season as well.
Yeah.
But
it was a good race. It was a good race. I mean, it was sad that it had to have a red flag, but it was a real good race, and I'm really happy of the turnout. And I'm actually even kind of happy that Hamilton did that charge to end up second, even after he made that huge big stuff up. But yeah,
he's a machine.
He is.
But
totally.
Are you impressed with my knowledge and what I've been watching and all that kind of jazz?
Dude, I'm really impressed. It's cool.
I gave my dad my word that I will follow the and obviously that benefits you and my relationship because you're a big F1 fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm following it tooth and nail. But this weekend, Usman Masvidal, the whole bank shoot. Then we've got the NBA playoffs coming soon. Next week we have Jesse Switchblade, or aka Carlos Sanchez of Deadline coming on next Thursday. We're gonna have to make some Meg-Do sessions in a week, not next week, but the week after. I'm getting these floors redone, so we're gonna be in another spot. Who knows where we're gonna be, but we're gonna make the show happen.
We'll make a plan every Thursday.
Yeah, every Thursday. But without further ado, with Art signing off. Myself, Gareth, your host. Please don't forget to subscribe to Papa G's House. Follow it everywhere at Papa G's House. But back same time, same place. But until then, we say peace. This is Papa G's House, episode 81 with Nathaniel Shannon. We love ya. That's where we're going.